Good evening, everyone, and we're going to call the meeting to order. We begin with our land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge that the ground on which we live is the traditional territory of Caldwell First Nation, of the Three Fires Confederacy, and the original people of Point Pelee, Pelee Island, and its surrounding lands and waters, and that of the Huron-Wendat and Wyandot peoples. We recognize and respect the First Nations who are stewards of the land and waters of Turtle Island and who have embraced this stewardship since time immemorial. We would also like to acknowledge the contributions of other nearby First Nation communities and all original people across Turtle Island. We will now have a moment of silent reflection, followed by the playing of our national anthem. Please stand for the playing of the national anthem. All right, we're going to begin with the adoption of our agenda for the April 14th, 2026 regular council meeting. Moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Richo-Spagnolo. All in favor? And that carries. Any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none. Councillor Segan? Any no declarations? Thank you. Adoption of minutes, that the minutes of the regular meeting of council held March 24th, 2026 be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Richo-Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Mayor's comments. I do have a few. I want to start by recognizing what was truly a milestone event for our community, the inaugural LaSalle Awards of Excellence, which was last Thursday. For a first-time event, it exceeded all expectations. It was an incredible evening that brought our community together to celebrate the people, businesses, and organizations that make LaSalle such a special place to call home. I want to extend my congratulations to all the nominees and recipients, and also recognize a few individuals in particular: Jeff Burrows, Rob Moore, and Angela Lucier, who had distinguished awards for the evening for their also outstanding contributions and the meaningful impact they continue to have in our community. It was an honor to celebrate each of them. And what made the evening so special was not just the awards themselves, but the stories behind them, stories of leadership, generosity, and a deep commitment to giving back. And I really always like to thank our staff, because they are the ones who help pull everything together. And without you guys, we wouldn't have been able to have that event. So thank you so much for the time you put into it. Building on that momentum, we have a number of exciting events coming in LaSalle. So this Saturday, April 18th, we invite everyone to join us for the LaSalle Spring Fling at the Event Center from 12 to 4 p.m. for one day only. This space will come alive with magic, busker-style entertainment, and fun for the whole family. Best of all, it is a free event and a great way to welcome spring together. I also want to remind residents about Mondays with the Mayor. I will be available on Monday, April 20th from 2 to 4 for anyone who'd like to stop in for a conversation. No appointment is needed. Simply check in at reception when you arrive at the LaSalle Civic Center. And if you prefer to book a time, the option's also available on our website. As we approach Earth Day on Wednesday, April 22nd, we are encouraging residents to take part in Clean Up LaSalle. This is a great opportunity to gather a group and help clean up a local park or trail. The town will provide gloves and garbage bags for those who register and who would love to see our efforts put together. Be sure to tag the town on social media so we can share your photos. And finally, I want to highlight an important community tradition. It is Turtle Club opening day coming up, and the Turtle Club parade is on Saturday, April 25th. Due to construction on Front Road, there will be a temporary detour for this year and road closures along the way. And this is from 9:30 a.m. till 11 a.m. And we encourage our residents to check our website and social media for details and to plan for extra travel time. Most importantly, come out, cheer on the walkers, and join the celebrations at the ballpark. I want to wish all of the players and coaches and volunteers a fun and successful season ahead. And that's what I have for today. So we're going to go into our public meetings and hearings we don't have, but we do have a presentation today. And so I'd like to invite Joe Burrell, VP of Regulatory and Corporate Affairs from Essex Power Corporation, to do a presentation. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council, administration. There is a slide presentation that coincides with my presentation. I'm just wondering, will that be put up? Perfect. I'll prompt you whenever, or you have it in front of you? No? Yeah, both. Okay, sorry. All right. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Joe Burrell, I'm the VP of Corporate and Regulatory Affairs for Essex Power. Thanks for the opportunity about an important business development opportunity being undertaken by Essex Power. It's important in many respects, but particularly important in the context of critical infrastructure that will be needed in the Windsor-Essex region for economic development and growth purposes for many years to come. I attend many municipal planning meetings, and I hear about the need to plan and ensure that proper planning is occurring related to water and wastewater systems, stormwater management, transportation networks, road expansion and maintenance and bridges, land use planning, infrastructure being planned in tandem with official plans to ensure growth occurs in an orderly and cost-effective manner. That's when I usually put up my hand and I ask, have you planned for the electricity you're going to need in the future? And that's when the room usually goes silent and I get a few puzzled looks and I get the question, what do you mean? Did you plan for the electricity? Electricity is always there when you need it, right? Well, partially right, yes. But if you don't do something now to address the electricity needs of the future, the answer might eventually be, we won't have the electricity you need to do what you want to do. So that brings me to the slide with the graph. It should be the second slide. Yes, perfect. Demand for electricity in the province of Ontario has been stable over the course of the last 10 years, as this graph shows. However, the annual planning outlook, or the APO forecast, indicates that the demand for electricity is expected to grow by 75% over the course of the next 25 years. What are the key drivers for future electricity growth in Ontario? Well, the first driver is industrial expansion and EV manufacturing. A historic surge in industrial investment, particularly in electric vehicle supply chain, is driving demand. Key projects include one right in our backyard, the Nexstar Energy Plant. And if you think that one is big, if you drive down the 401, there's one in St. Thomas that is literally 4 times the size. Those are energy hogs in terms of needing electricity. Electrification and decarbonization, the shift from fossil fuels to clean electricity in industrial processes, transportation, and home heating is another major driver. Data centers and technology, we've all heard about these. The proliferation of AI is leading to an increase in energy-intensive data centers. Another thing we've heard about, population growth and housing, a growing population and a projected 15% increase in population by 2035. That's only 9 years away, requiring more residential electricity and new home connections. And we've all heard about the greenhouse sector in southwestern Ontario. Greenhouse expansions are contributing to the significant regional demand, especially during the winter months. We used to have what are called our peak use days As you can imagine, in the middle of August, when it's 35 degrees outside, everybody has their air conditionings on and their pool pumps. That used to be our peak. Our peak now is in the winter months. Hard to believe, but true. That's when the greenhouses turn on their lights 24/7 so their crops can grow. So we no longer have summer peaks, we have winter peaks. Next slide, please. I've appeared before you in February of last year, and I've received general unanimous support from council back then relating to Essex Power's efforts to advance energy infrastructure investment in order to foster economic growth, economic development and growth. I'm here today to seek your specific support and approval to be involved in a new corporate entity that will develop and own new energy infrastructure in the form of a transformer station, or what we call a TS. Transmission instead of distribution. Right now we're in the distribution business. We bring power to homes. We're looking at getting involved in the transmission, and I'll get into that, the detail of that a little bit later. We all know the towers come down the 401. You see the towers, they're actually doubling up the towers to bring more power to the region. That's what we call our bulk system. But what we're looking at getting involved is delivering from the bulk system to the last mile connection, the connection that in LaSalle would be the Malden TS that we have. We don't own any stations at the current time, and the feeders that come out of those stations, which we also don't own. The best way to describe it is we're looking at building stations that act as bridges between the high voltage and the lower voltage distribution lines. That's what we're looking at doing, and that's what those TS stations do. Next slide, please. We've been fortunate to receive the support of this shareholder council and previous shareholder councils for previous business development initiatives that have made Essex Power what it is today. So I go back to back in 2000, council of the day had the foresight to partner with the towns of Tecumseh, Leamington, and Amherstburg to form Essex Power Corporation, which is our holding company, and Essex Power Lines, which is our utility business. But we're not just a holding company and a utility business. A lot of people hear Essex Power, but we're involved in a lot of different businesses, all because of the support of our shareholders. Subsequent councils had the foresight to diversify our portfolio of what Essex Power owns, all of course related to the energy business. We own Essex Energy Corporation, known for its involvement in the solar business, large-scale rooftops and ground-mounted solar projects, close to 200 projects across the province of Ontario, including here in town, the Volmer Center, and soon to be under construction, the solar rooftop on the engineering building at the University of Windsor. We also own Utilismart Corporation. We all remember the installation of smart meters. We have a company that is a smart meter data management company. There was a need in the industry to convert the data that's obtained by smart meters and essentially make it billable. So we call it the meter to cash business. Translates that data and puts it in a billing system. So utilities, we have 52 out of the 60 as customers in the province of Ontario that use our software through Utilismart to essentially bill customers using the data from smart meters. That's Utilismart Corporation. PowerShare. PowerShare is another corporation looking at distributed energy resources. It's a distribution energy management company. Enertrace Corporation. Enertrace is a 50-50 partnership with Enwin. We used to contract a third party to do our locates. We said, why don't we get into business, especially with another utility, our neighbor Enwin. So we own that company 50-50, and we do the locates for Windsor Utilities, the water business, Enwin, and ourselves. And we're looking at selling our business, our service, to others in the province of Ontario. Wadsworth is our energy consultant business, and you see some other entities up there. Those are all solar related, the ASI, EE Solar Powers, Muskoka, Rosso Solar. Those are all partnerships. EE Solar, Muskoka, and Rosso are a partnership with the First Nations in Northern Ontario for solar-specific projects that we own with them. So we're a little bit more than just a utility, as you can see. Next slide, please. So we're looking at getting involved in another business. Why? Because there's a need. And we're looking at not doing this alone, but with partners. The scope of a project of this nature is in the hundreds of millions of dollars. To build one station, it costs approximately, we're estimating $250 million. And we're looking at becoming 10% owners of that project, so we'll need partners. We're not asking any of our shareholders for money for this project, for our 10% of $250 million. That is for us to figure out as a company, obviously with our board approval in terms of how we do that. There will be, and we're looking at partnering with private equity. Private equity loves projects of this nature. They're safe bets for private equity. They bring a lot of money to the table. You need that in a project of this size and scope. And we're also partnering with another utility. Why would you partner with another utility? We're partnering with a utility in Sault Ste. Marie that they go by PUC. They're doing this right now. They're doing this exact thing in Sault Ste. Marie for Algoma Steel. Algoma Steel is converting to 2 new arc furnaces. Arc furnaces are energy hogs that cannot be serviced by simple regular poles and wires. You need a station, a dedicated station to service those arc furnaces. So we've partnered with them basically based on their knowledge and experience of having gone through this process before. And there may be some other partners other than the ones that I've mentioned. We're looking at doing this in the short term, and when I say short term in the electricity business, it's not next week, next month, next year. The first connection that will come out of this station as planned will be in 2028. But in order to start the process, we have to start now in order to meet our goals in 2028. And what we're looking at doing is once we do one station, modeling what we've done and modeling what we've learned from building that station to address other areas in the Windsor-Essex region, several areas in the Windsor-Essex region that need it, as well as across the province of Ontario, where we know there are other areas that need this as well. Next slide, please. What benefits does this bring to the Windsor-Essex region? There will be local employment opportunities, not just from construction, but in the operation of this asset, which will require technical expertise related to maintenance and day-to-day operation. This will bring the benefit of generating additional revenue for Essex Power and in turn the town as a shareholder in the form of a rate-regulated return through the oversight of our regulator, the OEB. Just like Essex Power operates right now, we're not allowed to do whatever we want to do in terms of how much we charge customers. We're a heavily regulated business. We have to justify everything we spend, every cost we have to the Ontario Energy Board. They're there to protect the ratepayer, and rightfully so. We can't increase rates by 20 to 30% just because we want to increase our dividends to our shareholders. We're allowed to make a regulated rate of return. And this project, this TS station, will be similar in terms of being allowed to make a regulated rate of return on our investment. It strengthens, in my humble opinion, Essex Power's long-term financial sustainability. I mentioned that it further diversifies our portfolio and it expands and modernizes the electrical system in order to meet future demand growth. Next slide, please. This is my second last slide. So what are the next steps? We have to form the entity in order to advance the development of the project and meet applicable regulatory requirements, including the requirement to obtain a transmission license from the Ontario Energy Board. Essex Power must establish the necessary project corporate entity. EPC, as a municipally owned corporation, as I mentioned, by the towns of LaSalle, Amherstburg, Tecumseh, and Leamington, is required under our shareholders agreement that when we create a new entity, our shareholders have to give approval. Now, we amended our shareholders, you may or may not recall, recently, we amended our shareholders agreement to give us a little bit of flexibility, more flexibility in terms of creating a corporate entity. And the current shareholders agreement, as amended, indicates that we can create a new entity, obviously subject to our board approval, up to $5 million in value. So if it's below $5 million, we don't have to come to our shareholders to gain approval. We can do that with our own board approval. As soon as it exceeds $5 million, we have to come to our shareholders to get approval. We're doing this right from the beginning. This corporation has no value as the present time. But when you're building a station of this size and scope, again, one piece of equipment, one transformer is going to cost $5 million. So why not come to council right from the beginning, right from the onset and say, hey, we're looking at getting involved in another business. This is the type of business it is. Please, can we have your support to create this entity? Which brings me to my last slide. I'll save the preamble and the whereases, but what we're essentially looking at doing is having the town of LaSalle as a shareholder approve Essex Power Corporation acquiring shares in Essex Transmission GP. That's a general partnership entity that will be formed, and any required related entity for the purposes of the Essex Transmission project. We'll obviously be seeking legal and tax advice, and from experience, sometimes tax advice recommends that other entities are formed in association with the general partnership. We'll likely be forming a limited partnership with the general partnership. I didn't want to come back every time we had to form an entity based on some advice that we get in terms of formation and say, hey, you know, that GP said it's okay to form. Now I have to come back and form an associated entity. So it's kind of an umbrella motion to be allowed to do exactly what it states. So subject to any questions, that's the extent of my presentation.
Thank you very much. Members of council, do you have any questions regarding the presentation? Councilor Renner?
Not a question so much as a comment. Thank you for coming down with some explanation as to what we've been kind of hearing a little bit about. We all hear resident concerns about the grid and the future taxation on the grid, and we know our own growth potential here in LaSalle and our own projections. So we know that it aligns exactly with what you're trying to do here. A new station to help get more power and convert more power for our area is probably the best thing that anybody could ask for. So thank you for putting that in front of us, and I look forward to moving forward with this.
Councilor Carrick and then Councilor Burns.
Thank you, Your Worship. So as we move further down the road, and I guess the question I have is, if we don't do this, how far back does this us, or what kind of disadvantage does this put us at moving forward?
I guess it puts your destiny in the hands of others. Not the benefit that you have is you're a shareholder to a company that can offer a potential solution. If you don't follow the path of allowing the corporation that you own to do it, you'll leave your destiny in the hands of others. And the only other business that's going to do this is Hydro One, who currently does it. They have nothing in the plans for this Windsor-Essex area to expand with regards to transformer stations. That's why we took the initiative and said this is an opportunity for us, not only business-wise, but to service our shareholders.
Okay, and then so as we get moving forward, we've had the presentation before and the resolution to pass. This is a major update compared to that. So I guess the next steps being, I fully support it, but is there a time where the chute might get pulled once we start down this path, or would it be too late once we start moving this thing forward?
The creation of the entity, like I said, the entity does not have any value at the present time. There's a number of steps we still have to go through in order to ensure that this entity has value. We need to get a license. We have to follow certain regulatory process. Not only when we get the license, then we have to do what's called a leave to construct. That's another permission that you could actually start construction. We're also looking at a designation by way of order in council from the provincial government to designate and prioritize this project. So designate Essex Power as the person to do it and prioritize it in terms of getting it done. So there's a number of steps that we still have to go through, but we just wanted to, at the initial stages, get that approval from our shareholders so we can move forward.
I'm not sure if this is a lower level question, but when we go through and we create the transmission, I know there's, I won't say issues, but there are hydro delivery outside of our control. Will this further help us down the road in our transmission, or are we still dependent on a different entity or a different company?
I'll try to answer this question in as best I can because, and I'll relate it to an issue that I believe as counselors and probably as administration, you hear a lot about. What about these blips? What about these power outages? So I'll relate your question to those specific issues. And I'll try to explain it as best I can. Hydro One feeds the town through the station, through Malden. So the power comes down the 401 to that station. And the reason is it's 26,000 volts. The station has to downgrade the voltage in order that it could be delivered to homes. Now it downgrades the voltage. It still needs downgrading down the line, but it comes out of that station through feeders, through lines. We don't own the station. We don't own the feeders. It comes to a certain point. We call it a demarcation point. It says, okay, Essex Power, now it's your turn to take it from here to the houses. We take it from there to the houses. We put transformers in front of houses. That's the final stage of voltage downgrading in order that you can put the electricity into the house. So we take over, we deliver and distribute to the homes and businesses. The reality is issues relating to blips and power outages occur on, I'll call it both sides of the fence, the Hydro One side of the fence and the Essex Power side of the fence. Our data indicates that over the course of a year, 75% of power related outages are attributed to loss of supply, okay, on the other side of the fence, where the power is traveling before it gets to us. But whether it's 75% or 50% or 25%, that's not my point. I'm not trying to make the sides of the fence, one side of the fence, look better than the other side, or I'm not trying to deflect. It doesn't matter the percentages. The point I'm trying to make is that we can't see over the fence, and we have no control over what happens on the other side of the fence. So when something happens at the station or with the feeders from the station coming out of the station, we have no control over that, nor do we know why it happened. We don't know the maintenance that occurred. We don't know what the maintenance schedule was. We don't respond to fix the problem. It's not our asset. We don't manage the asset. We're not even allowed to touch the asset. We're not able to undertake a root cause analysis. Why did this happen? How can we prevent it from happening again? Again, because it's on the other side of the fence. And what a project of this nature does is it brings things within our control. We'll own the station. We'll own the feeders. So we'll have things under our control better than what they currently are right now.
Okay, thank you for the walkthrough.
Councillor Burns?
Thank you, Your Worship. Joe, I guess I'd like to know, are we the first municipality you've approached, or have our partners given their approval at this point? Then I have one other question. Thank you.
So I attended Amherstburg Town Council last night. I had a huge crowd, but it was for a heritage designation for a high school. I thought they were there for me, But I received their unanimous support last night, and my next in my travels, Leamington and Tecumseh are next after tonight.
I agree with the area we're going, and I also thank you for the information, as I asked you a few days ago, about the outages, because at the end of the day, it's the taxpayer. Doesn't care if it's Hydro One, they don't care if it's you, it's just they don't have it. And we've all heard that in here. We still get those outage reports from you, which are great, so we know as a council. And any solution that we can do there is certainly going to be appreciated, particularly in the old part of LaSalle along Front Road. It seems it's, I want to say every other day, but I know it's not quite that bad, but you know what I mean. When you're looking at these things, and then where I live on Golfview, it hasn't happened for whatever reasons, but we used to have that 30 years ago when we didn't have the rerouting of, which again brings back the power much sooner. So I think it's a great move. All these other companies you started have shown us a return, and a very good return on our initial investment. So I certainly can vote for that, and at the proper time, I would make the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Richo Spagnolo.
Thank you through you. To Joe, thank you for the presentation. It was very detailed. Councillor Burns actually asked my question in regards to the shareholders. However, I know you had mentioned 2028. Is that the estimated time of when everything should be ready to go for the project? Or if you could just answer that. Thank you.
That would be phase one of the project. We have several phases of the project, so subsequent to that, we would include the other phases being other stations.
Any other questions or comments? None? Thank you for the presentation. I'm also fully supportive of this. It's a great initiative, but it's something absolutely needed for our region. And I know there's other plans besides the initial phase that is definitely going to benefit this side of Essex County. So before everybody, there is a proposed wording for a resolution. It says, whereas Essex Power Corporation, EPC, is a municipal corporation owned by the town of LaSalle, Amherstburg, Tecumseh, and municipality of Leamington, the shareholders, and whereas the shareholders of EPC have established a shareholder declaration that requires in part the EPC seek and receive shareholder approval with respect to the taking, holding, subscribing for, or agreeing to purchase the acquired shares in the capital of any body corporate other than subsidiary of corporations by EPC. Whereas EPC, along with its partners, are proposing to advance the Essex Transmission Project, a strategic infrastructure initiative intended to support regional energy reliability, enable economic development, and generate long-term financial returns through new transmission asset. And whereas the Essex Transmission Project is expected to deliver direct and indirect benefits to the Windsor-Essex region by supporting local employment, enhancing EPC's long-term financial sustainability, and increasing municipal-related revenues that can be reinvested in the community services and infrastructure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of LaSalle, as a shareholder of EPC, hereby approves EPC acquiring shares in Essex Transmission GP Inc. and any required related entity for the purpose of the Essex Transmission Project. Moved by Councillor Reno, support by Councillor Burns. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, Worship, Council, and Administration. Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to our staff reports and correspondence for council's action. And item 1 is the Joint Municipal Election Compliance Audit Committee for 2026 to the 2030 term of council. And we have our Policy and Legislative Coordinator, Ms. Dylan Mickle.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Administration is recommending that Council establish a joint election compliance audit committee with the Town of Amherstburg, Town of Essex, Town of Kingsville, Municipality of Lakeshore, and the Town of Tecumseh for the 2026 to 2030 term of council. Each council of the participating municipalities will be presented with the same terms of reference that have been attached as Appendix A and a bylaw for approval. We did receive notice today from the Town of Amherstburg that at their council meeting last night, council unanimously approved the Joint Election Compliance Audit Committee. No other municipalities at this time have taken it before their council, but they will be bringing those in the near future. So this is a required committee under the Municipal Elections Act, and it must be established prior to October 1st in an election year. and it deals with matters regarding to election campaign finances and contributions. The committee's mandate is to determine whether a request for a compliance audit should be granted or rejected. If the committee grants the application, it's required by the Act to appoint an auditor to conduct the compliance audit of the candidates or third-party advertisers' election campaign finances. Once completed, the auditor would then provide a report to the committee stating their conclusions. Historically, it has been difficult to find qualified applicants to sit on the committee. In 2022, in LaSalle, 4 applications were received for the committee, and all 4 of those applicants were appointed. Recruitment has also been a challenge for other area municipalities. The establishment of the Joint Committee offers numerous efficiencies while remaining compliant with the relevant provisions of the Act, and it offers the greatest potential to reach the broadest spectrum of interested and qualified applicants across Essex County in a cost-effective manner. In 2022 to 2026, the term of council, the Election Compliance Audit Committee for the town of LaSalle did not receive or review any applications for a compliance audit, and none of the participating municipalities received any for 2022 to 2026 either. And it has been an increasingly common practice across Ontario to establish joint election compliance audit committees. They are comprised of several municipalities which are geographically located in an upper tier municipality. And examples of previous ones and regions and counties that are doing this again in 2026 are Middlesex, Elgin, Simcoe, and the regional municipalities of Halton, York, and Niagara. Requests for compliant audits are typically rare, so it is mutually beneficial for participating municipalities to share the resources and responsibilities for this type of committee. The committee will operate pursuant to the terms of reference that are attached to the report as Appendix A, and there will be 5 members and 1 alternate. Preference will be given to applicants that have experience in public accounting, auditing, legal, and the application of campaign finance rules. And within the terms of reference, it is being recommended that the clerks of the participating municipalities will appoint the members to the committee. Upon approval of the terms of reference and bylaw by all participating municipalities, recruitment will begin for the members of the joint committee. Under the Act, it is also the responsibility of the municipality to cover all costs in relation to the committee's operation and activities. Some of these costs will be attributed to training, and this will be shared between the participating municipalities. So we will be seeing the cost effectiveness coming from the establishment, recruitment, and training of the committee. The costs for advertising will apply separately to each municipality. And if a compliance audit is required, it will be the cost for the municipality that is performing that audit. So if LaSalle received a request, then LaSalle would be paying the fee to the committee and for the auditor. And then in conjunction with the other participating municipalities, it's been determined that the compensation should be $150 per member per meeting plus mileage. So we are recommending that a joint compliance audit committee be joined with Amherstburg, Essex, Kingsville, Lakeshore, and Tecumseh for 2026 to 2030. That the terms of reference attached as Appendix A be approved. The current terms of reference that the town of LaSalle has be repealed at the end of the term of council, and that the bylaw 2026-023 to establish the committee be adopted at the bylaw stage of the agenda. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Members of council. Councilor Reno?
Thanks for your presentation. It was very clear. The answers that we really need to know were things like, if another municipality has a bunch of problems, are we going to be paying for them? So that came through very clear. So thank you for the report, and I will move the recommendation.
I'm going to wait on that. I have Councilor Segan first.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Malash. I just have one question. Why do you think historically it's difficult to find people to apply for this position?
Just speaking to past terms of council, there hasn't been many applicants. So for 2022 to 2026, the only 4 people applied for LaSalle, and those 4 people were appointed. There wasn't a pool that could be chosen from.
Do you think, just one other question, do you think it's because the message is not getting out to the community? Because I know that I haven't seen that in the past, and I think this is really important, that people participate in this democratic process.
Thank you, Councilor Segan. In 2022, we did advertise in social media through I believe the LaSalle Post was here at that time. If not, we did in 2018 as well. We do it through all those channels. We have paper forms at the reception desk. So we try to get to all of our community. We just really don't have a good applicant or a good response typically.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, so I have it moved by Councillor Reno, support. Councillor Segan, all in favor? And that carries. Thank you. Item 3 is use of corporate resources for election purposes policy, and that'll be our Director of Council Services.
Thank you, Mayor Meloche. So this is another requirement under the Municipal Elections Act. The town is required to establish a policy with respect to the use of corporate resources during an election campaign. We currently have a policy which was adopted back in 2010 and was reviewed during each term of council since its adoption. The last time it was reviewed was in 2019, so just after the 2018 municipal election. And so we started looking at it last year and decided that the policy needed a bit of an update and a bit of modernization, basically to reflect, the changes in technology since it's been adopted, some of the changes in campaign practices. Those have been evolving with the use of social media a little bit more frequently. We also tried to incorporate some provisions in the policy which reflects the needs and the wants of the electors. So what I'm going to do is I will turn it over to Ms. Dylan Mickle, who is going to review some of the more significant changes in the policy to really flesh them out for council.
Thank you. So the proposed policy is to provide greater clarity with respect to permitted and prohibited activities during an election campaign period for current members of council, candidates, third-party advertisers, representatives, and employees. And I'll just clarify that in the policy, corporate resources is defined as any facility, infrastructure, equipment, supplies, technology, media, or other item or asset owned, rented, leased, or controlled by the town, and also includes financial and human resources. And now I'll just provide an overview of the significant changes that really highlights the differences between the two policies. So first is the applicability. This will apply for municipal, school board, provincial, and federal elections, and includes by-elections or questions on a ballot. And it applies to members of council, candidates, employees, third-party advertisers, and an individual or entity that is representing a candidate or third-party advertiser. Definitions were included within the policy. There is a provision that has been added to allow for the rental of town facilities for campaign-related purposes for candidates and third-party advertisers, subject to a number of conditions that are outlined within the policy. There's also been an addition of a provision to allow for the organization of a town-led Meet the Candidates night. We have added language that clarifies candidates and third-party advertisers are able to attend town events as a private citizen, but may not campaign at those events, and also that candidates and third-party advertisers or representatives will not be invited to provide formal remarks at a town event. There is clarifying language that permits candidates to use their own photos taken from a publicly accessible location that contains the town logo, branding, crest, slogan, etc. We have added language to permit the town to share contact information, including social media handles and website links for candidates and third-party advertisers on the town's election webpage. We have added language to clarify that employees are prohibited from wearing attire or accessories that identify them as an employee of the town if they are working in support of a candidate or third-party advertiser, and also language that clarifies an employee should ensure that their political activities do not create a perceived or actual conflict of interest related to their work. Election officials will be prohibited from campaigning on behalf of any candidate, member, third-party advertiser, or question on the ballot. There has been modernization of the prohibitions that apply only to current members of council. This is regardless if they are running or not. There's language to clarify that it is the responsibility of a member to understand, adhere, and seek clarification when necessary with respect to the policy, and that the clerk has the authority to provide guidance and interpretations and any related approvals or prohibitions with respect to the policy. So what we are recommending is that the current policy that's attached as Appendix B is repealed and that the current policy attached as Appendix A is approved.
Just trying to read it all and keep up with you. Thank you. Any questions? None? Okay. Recommendations of the report of the Director of Council Services, Clerk and Policy Legislative Coordinator dated March 13th, 2026, which is CS-2026-06, regarding the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy be received, and that the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy G-EL-001 attached to the report as Appendix B be repealed, and that the use of corporate resources for election purposes policy attached to the report as Appendix A be approved. Moved by Councillor Carrick, support by Councillor Richo Spagnolo. All in favor? That carries. Item 3 is the exemption to the Retail Business Holidays Act, and I will turn it over to our Deputy Clerk, Ms. Jean.
Thank you, Mayor Malash. We received a request from the district manager of the Food Basics on Sandwich West Parkway, the new grocery store there, for an exemption under the Act. And they wanted the request for Good Friday and Easter Sunday. Unfortunately, the request came in too late and the timelines weren't available to process that request under the Act. Under the Act, there are 2 options for exemptions, and one is an individual request, like we got. This requires public notice, a public meeting, a 30-day appeal period, bylaws passed, residents can appeal to the tribunal, and it can go on and on. It can take quite some time for that exemption to go through. Right now, and over the years, we do have some individual exemptions in place, which is Zares on Malden Road, Freshco on Malden Road, and the Windsor Crossing Premium Outlet on Talbot. We do not get a lot of individual requests, but like I said, they do take time. The second option under the Act is to provide a municipality-wide blanket exception, which is on the recommendation for tonight's report. This allows all retail businesses to remain open on holidays. So in other words, a municipality can opt out of the Retail Business Holidays Act by passing a bylaw and then adopting a bylaw identifying which days businesses can be open. And under that legislation, it also says that one business day must remain closed. The Act identifies the holidays, which is New Year's Day, Good Friday, Victoria Day, Canada Day, Labor Day, Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and Easter Sunday. And administration is recommending Christmas Day as a designated closing day. I did do some research with other areas and other municipalities, Aurelia, York, Windsor. There's not really any local municipalities who do have a blanket exemption, but those are consistent with having Christmas Day as the one day being closed. I did find it interesting, and I really never paid attention before, but leading up to Easter, and because I was writing this report and kind of paying attention to it, I did notice that a lot of the businesses that did have signs up about Good Friday and Easter Sunday, and there were similar businesses that were open at Windsor Crossing that were closed in other areas. So that does cause a little bit of confusion for our residents. So today we are recommending that that the blanket exemption be considered by council. And if you have any questions, I'm available. Thank you.
Thank you. Members of Council, Councillor Carrick.
I'm okay with the recommendation. I think it levels the playing field.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Reno?
Thank you, Worship. Being somebody that works in retail and have for 35 years, this is a little bit touchy for me because you only get so many days to be with your family. And I've always said that if an employer chooses to open, there is a financial deterrent to them. They have to pay overtime for everybody that's working. So knowing that that is still going to be a deciding factor for anybody that chooses to open, I'm glad that that really doesn't come into the conversation. My question would be, so I just want a clarification. So when VAERS or the other exceptions that are on there, they've only had to do that once and then they're good forever.
That's correct.
Okay,
But
so
with a blanket exemption, that means that other businesses would not have to apply for that individual exemption. There would be that blanket exemption for the town.
that's fine. And I just wanted to clarify because I wanted to make sure that we weren't, as a corporation, losing out on $220 times 8 holidays times 5 businesses. We're not losing out on, we basically lost out on $220 this year maybe. So, and I'm okay with that, and I would support a motion at the time.
Counselor Segan?
I think this blanket exemption makes sense because it gets rid of a lot of the administrivia and the tying down of our resources as far as our staff work goes. And quite frankly, stores are going to decide whether they want to apply or not. So I approve and in support of this motion.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? So just to clarify, if we do the blanket policy, they have the option of being open every day except Christmas. We're not telling them they have to be open, because I did hear some comments from some residents thinking that we were taking that away from businesses, giving them the option.
That's correct. It's a bylaw that will be passed at the next meeting if council approves this recommendation. And it is up to the business to decide if they want to be open on those holidays. That's right.
Thank you. I'm also in favor of it because I do think it creates a fairness across the entire municipality. Some smaller business may not have known that they could even have applied for this in the past, or thought the process maybe was too cumbersome. So I think this is a great idea, and I would much prefer us do the blanket policy as well. So I did have moved by Councillor Carrick, and support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. Item 4 is our application to remove the holding symbol on vacant land Stanton Avenue, and we have our Manager of Planning Development, Ms. Bursick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening. I'm just pulling my presentation up here. There we go. So the application I'm presenting tonight is for the request to remove the holding symbol on the lands shown up on the screen. These are vacant lands on Stanton Avenue, just on the north side. And it is just west of Malden Road. That's that road running north-south on the screen. So the subject lands are presently designated residential for the most part. However, a portion of it is also designated mixed use. That is along the Malden Road corridor section. In terms of zoning, again, the image on the bottom of the screen there shows a zoning where the portion to the left is zoned residential 1 zone with the holding, while the portion on the right of the parcel is zoned mixed use 2 zone holding. Again, this matches up with the official plan designation of the lands. As I mentioned, the property is currently vacant, and the applicant has made application as well to the Committee of Adjustment for a consent to sever the land to create 4 new lots. Those 4 new lots would be those which are outlined in the red dashed line. Their intention for the severance is for the area where the red dashed lines are to create 2 semi-detached dwellings, and those that development is within the R1 zone land. In the meantime, they wish to maintain the property to the right, which is outlined in the green dashed line, and that area is the area zoned mixed use 2, and they hope to develop a 6-unit apartment on those lands. For For the apartment portion of the land, the development is exempt from site plan control. New regulations over the past few years under the Planning Act, which have removed the ability to request site plan control for any development 10 units or less. So that falls under that new regulation. However, through the severance, we are undertaking a severance agreement with the applicant. And that is due to not only servicing these new properties, but also the applicant is looking to extend Stanton Avenue, of course, to provide frontage for these properties on an open right-of-way. And this next slide here just shows a rendering of what they looked to develop for the land for the 6-unit apartment. So it's suggested that the corresponding bylaw for the H removal will come at a later time once the severance agreement has been executed. And I also want to mention that the applicants are here present if council wishes to ask them any questions tonight. Otherwise, I am also available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Members Council, Councilor Carrick.
So just a quick question around the 6-unit apartment building. So it's 6 units and the one scheme says 12 parking spaces, the other one's, the report says 11. So 6 units, that's almost 2 per unit, which I think is really, really good. And I know it's a little less than that in some condo buildings, but the ratio there is awesome. And there's also some other stuff there that's really good too. But is it 11 or 12? I'm not splitting hairs here, but just wanted clarification.
Thank you for the question. At this time, the applicants they're finalizing what they want the site to exactly look like. My understanding is they do wish to fit as many parking spaces as they could.
Councilor Burns.
Yes, I'd just like to know if we've changed our process on development. Any other development that came before council, usually the developer presented, and yet we're presenting on behalf of the developer. So I don't know if there's something here I missed. So I'd like clarification of that, please. Thank you.
Sure, through you. So Councillor Burns, it really depends on the nature and type of application that gets submitted. There is no public process associated with this particular application. The property has an as-of-right zoning with a holding provision, which doesn't trigger any statutory public meeting under the Planning Act. So it's for that reason that the applicant's not making a formal presentation. And some time ago, as Ms. Brisick has alluded to, Bill 23 removed the requirement for site plan approval to be approved by council, and it's a delegated authorization by administration.
Thank you for that. I was kind of sure that was the process. I have received phone calls from in the neighborhood about this development quite a while ago. And again, I would say most of the street is against it. That's no secret. I'm sure other members have found it. I have advised them that because of Bill 23, there's not much we can do. Is that right? So if we turn it down, then they have the right to go to an OMB and most likely would win. Have I given the neighbors the right content
So
by the law?
Yeah, through you.
Thank you.
A number of related amendments to the Planning Act removed any third-party appeal rights. So if you're not the owner of the lands or the owner of the property in question, you no longer have the right under the legislation to appeal.
Very much. Those are my questions.
Councilor Seegan, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I did. Through you, Mayor. most of my questions are actually answered through Councilor Burns' questioning, because I too have heard from residents in the area. So I'm satisfied with what I just heard.
Okay, Councillor Richo Spagnolo, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, through you. Were there accessible parking spots as well? I'm trying to see it on here and I just missed it. There's, yes.
Any other questions or comments? The only one I have is when I look at the figure, so which one is it? Number, it's not going to load, of course, now. The location of the subject land, so it's your first one. There's a driveway coming off of Malden Road onto the subject lands. Is that going to cause any issues?
Thank you for your question. I believe the driveway you're looking at actually connects to 6165 Malden. That goes through the municipal right-of-way. We are aware of it. However, Stanton Avenue is not connecting out through Malden. So the development that we're discussing here tonight is not going to be touching that portion of land.
So I think my question's more towards if it's going out to 6155, have they been using that right away? Is that what we're changing, is the use of that right away? Because I realize it's not going to connect to Malden. That's actually on the other side of the property. It looks like it's a well-used stretch of land. And so I just wanted to know if there were any problems going to arise out of this. Not that it would stop us, but.
Yeah, I think for that particular driveway, the little piece that does go on our right of way, it's one of many where we have a situation like that. It's likely something we'll try to clean up as part of hopefully a future development application for that property. It's likely what would take place.
For 6155, you're saying?
Sorry, I was looking at the property south. You meant the property north, on the north side.
Yes.
Yeah, that's getting so 6155 isn't changing at this time. That the house that's there is remaining there with the driveway.
With the driveway that goes on to the subject lands, because it extends quite a bit into that first
So yeah,
parcel.
that'll get eliminated, and it's just the frontage to Malden.
But have we already contacted 6155 to have those conversations? If not, hopefully we can do that before we move any further, just to hopefully eliminate any tension that would arise.
So I'm going to jump in over here, Curtis Bartlett.
Oh, there you are. I was like, I hear a voice.
Hello. I just wanted to note that at one point those two lands were owned by the same owner and have obviously been this part been sold off to the applicant. At one point there was a shed and or a garage of some sort back there which has been removed, so that access isn't being used anymore. And obviously, yeah, it will be completely removed as part of this.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds, did you have a further question?
I do. I just went back into a couple different diagrams to understand. So the extension of Stanton Avenue is going to bring the bulb to the east. The land that will be at the end of the bulb, between the end of the bulb and Malden Road, that will remain municipal land. That will be we own that land currently, it looks like. Is that correct?
That's correct. It will stay as unopened right away at this time.
Okay, and can you comment, or can planning comment on how deep that land is, and what the possible uses of that land could be in the future? I know a lot of times we've had parkettes or small natural areas put in there, but knowing that with Bill 23 and the increase in density, we seem to have a lot of interest in parking. And, you know, there's no parking in that cul-de-sac. And I don't think it's going to be a problem when you have 12 parking spots in your building. I have no problem with what you're doing. but down the road, there's always people looking for parking and we just can't offer it to them. Is there enough room for us to do like a municipal parking lot down the road, or is there too little room to do something like that? I'm not asking for a commitment. I'm just wondering what's left for that piece of grass.
Through you. So those lands are within the mixed-use corridor designation, which is intended as sort of an important mixed-use spine within the municipality. And it's the goal and the intent for that corridor to be a mix of land uses, which includes residential development opportunities combined with non-residential development opportunities. So that's sort of the intent of how we envision that important mixed-use spine developing over time. So to put sort of a parking lot or a future parking lot in that location kind of undermines the intent of what we would be looking for there. We typically will reserve those sort of remnant parcels of land for future consolidation purposes for private investment. So for example, if the owner of 6155 were to come forward or an abutting owner and be interested in acquiring that property for future consolidation so that it could contribute to a more comprehensive development proposal that was in keeping with the principles and goals and objectives of the mixed-use corridor, that would be something the municipality would be interested in.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Recommendations that the report of the Manager of Planning Development dated March 17th, 2026, PD-2026-10 regarding the request to remove the holding provision from the vacant lands on Stanton Avenue be received, and that Council approves the applicant's request to remove the holding zone symbol from the above noted lands, and that Council adopts a corresponding bylaw for the removal of the holding provisions on the subject lands. Moved by Councilor Richo Spagnolo, support by Councilor Segan. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Item 5, the 2026 Mill and Pave Tender Award. Our Manager of Engineering, Mr. Capucci.
Thank you. Mayor and members of council, the report here is to award the Mill and Pave contract to GIP. This year's project is a Cyrene road repair along Disputed, and as well included in that project, it's a retaining wall repair along Disputed at Kelly Road that's been failing. So we decided to tie both these projects together because they were both in need of repair, both the road and the retaining wall. Cyrene is a technique we used on Broderick. It's similar to a mill and pave, but instead of removing the millings away from the project site, it gets ground up, repurposed, and placed on site. So it's a very cost-effective and environmentally friendly way of rebuilding roads. Typically in the county, where you can adjust the grades of the center line of the road up to 3 inches. So we went out for tender and we got two competitive bids, we would say, and we are recommending going with GIP. It's worth noting that during the bidding process, there's a conflict in the Middle East right now, and so given that asphalt prices are heavily tied to oil prices, we would expect that, and it's included within our contingency, the price for the contract for the asphalt to increase, probably depending on where the oil prices fall when we pave, roughly $70,000 to $80,000. It's hard to put a number on that because there hasn't been a lot of oil moving at this moment for paving jobs. The plants are expected to open in April. So right now there is a variability on pricing for the asphalt, but we feel safe with the $200,000 contingency within the project. And I did note too, we did have some provisional items in there regarding the storm ditch along Kelly Road, just to get some pricing if we were interested to doing some ditch work. We're electing not to do that, but that work is still included in the overall contract price, but we won't be spending it as part of the job. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Councilor Reno.
Thank you. I just wanted to know the work that we're abandoning, the drainage work, is that something that can be covered under the Drainage Act down the road, or do we own most of that, and it's going to come back to us anyway?
We will be doing at another time. There is some drains, municipal drains along the corridor, but majority of it is roadside ditches, and we can go back at another time as needed.
Any other questions? Councillor Burns?
I'm not in favor of delaying Kelly Road and that ditch we have there. I think, you know, it should be included in this project. We won't get there for another 5 or 6 years. Farmers are already having trouble making that turn from Disputed onto Kelly with their equipment. And they were kind of looking for some relief so they can get the bigger equipment down that road. They have to use it anyways, but it's a bottleneck. And if we budgeted for it, I don't see why we wouldn't spend the money even if it's over. Because, you know, you're only kind of doing half a roof in my opinion, instead of the whole roof. It's okay if you're selling the house, but if you're going to live it in 20 years, then you should do the whole roof. So I would address that separate with a separate motion afterwards. If it passes council, fine. If it doesn't, then at least I've had my say on it. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor. We are doing the retaining wall along next to Kelly. That's we're not removing that. The retaining wall along Disputed is starting to fall in. So we are fixing the retaining wall. The culvert I think you're talking about at Kelly, we're not widening it. It's not necessary right now. The useful life is still there. So we're not intending on widening the culvert itself, the bridge itself. In our bridge, report, it doesn't say that we need to update that for some time. So that's why we haven't decided to replace that concrete box culvert.
I've been asked by many farmers in that area, can we do something? So I can't see how the farmers want it and we don't want to do it. Because it's trouble there, that corner. And the retaining wall I never agreed with. I wish it would have all been culvert and been done with it. But I guess I'll have to accept your answer and vote accordingly. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Carrick?
I just want to say that thank you to administration for looking after the Broadwick and Disputed area. There's a lot of our areas in need, and it's much need in that area, even though it's not as highly dense. There's not as much density there, but it's still, thank you very much for that. And thanks.
Thank you. So my only question regarding the items that are being removed, it's not cheaper for us to do it now. It's okay going back in a few years because it's not going to have any effect on what's currently being done. Is that correct?
I don't think it'll be more expensive getting our own crews to complete this work, given their skill set. They're very good at this kind of work. We were interested in getting a quote from the contractor to wrap it all in. Given the price that we received, we felt that we could probably facilitate it ourselves. So,
Thank you. No other questions or comments? No? Okay. Recommendation is that the report of the Manager of Engineering dated March 2026, PW-2026-16 regarding the 2026 mill and pave tender award be received, and that the 2026 mill and pave contract be awarded for the bid price of $2,294,400, exclusive of HST, to GIP Paving Inc. to be funded from projects 26503 mill and pave and 24502 Kelly Gun retaining wall repair, and that the projected deficit of the project be funded from the road reserve, and that the mayor and town clerk be authorized to execute said contract with GIP Paving Incorporated. Moved by Councillor Segan, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. 2026 Parks Cutting Contract Approval. Our Manager of Roads and Parks, Mr. Beggs.
Thank you, Mayor and members of council. The report tonight regarding the parks cutting contract, is specifically for half of our town's cutting. Just some background, in 2025, our west side contractor was not able to meet our level of service. And as a result, we retendered that cutting for 2026. And this report is the results of that tender. And the lowest bidder was luckily our cutter that currently does the east side of LaSalle. So we were happy with who was the winner, and the recommendation is to proceed with Terrascapes. Just one note as far as the numbers go, those numbers do represent the total 4-year life of the potential contract. So it is not 266,000 per year. It's for the lifespan of the project, just to clarify that. And I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Richo Spagnola.
Thank you, through you. Just a question. It's great that we used Terrascapes before. However, the lowest bid to the highest bid, like that's quite a discrepancy. Even like the top, I don't know, like the last 4 or 5 is like more than double. So I'm just wondering, like, are we comparing? Am I looking at the right? You're looking at, yeah. I don't know if you can just answer that. I don't know if we're comparing apples to apples with the services, or is it just Terrascapes is just much cheaper, I guess, with their services?
Thank you for the question. I am confident that Terrascapes is bidding the same job as everybody else, and I think a lot of what you see here, there are a lot of companies now that are possibly even out of town companies, and they will literally bid all kinds of work and just throw numbers in, and they may even not do the work and they completely subcontract out the work. We've seen that with some other things, and I think especially the 3 in the 900,000 range would be something like that. There are a lot of bidders here too, but I think, if you look at the top 4 or 5, they're kind of in that same range, and that's probably where the number should be. So I'm comfortable with going with them. It is odd though how widespread the bidding is.
Councillor Carrick.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I guess getting back to present day, and this is a 4-year term, the price of fuel, I mean, that seems like a pretty good bid for us. And I guess, is there contingencies or anything built into the contract that would offset some of the costs for them as far as paying almost double what would be probably, I'm not even sure when this was quoted, but since then, the price of fuel has still got to go up. So there's going to be a considerable amount of difference there, I would imagine, within 4 years.
Thank you for the question. In the contract, there is an increase per year. I don't have it all right in front of me here, but that's included in the total. So they do get a little more every year along the way. On these smaller contracts, there are not fuel increase contingencies or anything like that. So in most cases, the bidder has put in a number, and they will have to honor that number regardless of the price of fuel. And it's up to the contractor to take that into account.
Okay. I certainly appreciate that. I guess the concern is when you start not making enough money and you start maybe cutting corners, do we have follow-up that our staff run around and ensure that the job is getting done? That's the only concern I have.
Again, thank you for the question. Yes, then that's exactly what happened in 2025. It wasn't fuel related, but our contractor just wasn't meeting our level of service. And as every year, our staff check what's been cut, check on quality, check on invoicing, and all the different parts of it. And that's why we're in the position of retendering it this year. So we will be continuing that as the years go on.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship.
Councillor Segan.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Malash. What happened to the previous contract? How were they not able to fulfill the contract? And if they were paid, is there reimbursement for services not rendered?
Thank you for the question. There were a number of issues with the contractor. Part of it was just they didn't have a large enough staff and equipment to actually keep up. It seemed like they took on a little more work than what they could handle. They were also a cutting contractor for one of our neighboring municipalities, and there'd be often days when we might call to see where they were and find out they were at our neighbors and things of that nature. In addition, just billing concerns and stuff like that. So they were paid for the work that they completed and not paid for the work that they did not complete. And then that contract was ended.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to hear. Thanks.
Any other questions? The company that we picked, I don't know them besides knowing that we have a contract with them currently. Are they local?
They are local as far as Essex County. They are, I believe, not a LaSalle company, but they are from
Essex
the area.
County. No, I appreciate that. And like I said, it's good that I don't know their name because that means we didn't get complaints. The other side, I agree, last year was the first time in a while that I had gotten as many calls as I did on that side of town. So I'm glad we were able to unfortunately get out of that contract, but move on with a company that we've trusted and we've had good service from. So I'm in favor of moving forward with this as well. Any other questions or comments? No? Okay. Recommendations of the report of the manager of roads and parks dated March 13th, 2026, PW-2026-14 regarding the 2026 parks cutting contract approval be received and that the East Side Parks cutting contract be awarded for the bid price of $266,241.90 exclusive of HST to Terrascapes for a term of 4 years. Moved by Councillor Richo Spagnolo, support by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? It carries. Memorial Program Policy Update. Back to Mr. Beggs.
Thank you, Mayor and Member of Council. This report is related to our memorial program and some changes that we have in for a new policy update. What this basically stems from is the construction of the Healing Hearts Memorial Gazebo that's on the Vollmer property up on the hill by the pond. And the idea with it is rather than having memorial trees and the plaques that go with the trees and the excess work for our staff to stick handle the tree program, we've set up the gazebo in a way where we can put names and messages on the plaques in the actual gazebo, and they will all be in one spot and remain there with the gazebo. This will eliminate the need for choosing locations for trees, what species of trees, and numerous meetings back and forth dealing with trees in general. There are no changes to our memorial brick or the bench program. That remains the same. And there was a slight increase in the overall pricing, which I've got noted at near the bottom of the report. And basically the pricing is an attempt to recover the cost of the actual benches, plaques, and engraving, and to collect some money and keep in the reserves for the eventual replacement or work that might need to be done on the Healing Hearts gazebo. Just as a note, because it is coming and going to be new, there's also going to be a memorial feature down at the LaSalle Landing, and that may be a spot for future memorials. But the initial intent for that location is to have a spot where when we do find memorials that need to be moved or relocated, very similar to what we did in the skate trail area, we have a nice spot to be able to put them that's already there, and residents would be able to see where their loved ones are where their plaques are placed. So I'm available for any questions if anybody has anything.
Councillor Richo Spagnolo.
Thank you through you to Mr. Beggs. I think the price is very fair for $250 for the engravement for the Healing Memorial. I think that's a very good price. The question I have is there's 600 spaces. I'm assuming this is going to be promoted through social media through Dawn, which is great. when are we going to be starting to promote this? That's one question. And obviously, there's limited spaces of 600 until we go to LaSalle Landing. So I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
We'll be prepared to start working on that once council approves this today, if you do. And then, so I would say in the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to get started on it.
Councillor Carrick?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I think it's a great idea too. I just want to ensure, I thought I read it somewhere, families first and the parents that donated the money, everybody's on board with this change, and if this is even applicable to this spot for the tree planting. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councilor Carrick. Yes, Families First is aware, and so is the initial donor. In fact, once we have this program in place, we will be communicating that with Families First. They will have pamphlets for their patrons that will be available for them to take advantage of this or see what's available here for their clientele.
Thank you.
Councillor Reno?
I was just trying to find it in the report here, but there was some language in there discerning between a millennial garden and this memorial program for bricks. Did I read that properly? I was trying to put it in perspective, but I can't find it in the report right now, so I may have misread it when I originally went through it.
Thank you for the question. So regarding bricks, there's basically still two locations for Memorial Bricks. So one is at the Millennium Gardens area. There's still space there. And as well, we do have some space at the Vollmer Center around the existing benches where there are bricks in the kind of the base of them. And there's still some room there for bricks.
Okay. So moving forward, those will be the only two areas that we will be authorizing bricks. And the only other memorial program we're doing will be the one down at the landing.
That's correct. And as well, our bench program that we would continue to do.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Oh, Councillor Segan?
Through you again, Mayor Malash, I appreciated in this report seeing the statements that the hours by the staff are part of the existing operation budget. So with the policy, there are no changes to operational budgets. So thank you for doing that. And I hope we see that more in many of our reports. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Mulsha?
Just further to Councillor Reynolds' question, we will from time to time, as we, if you will, retrofit, if you will, in our existing parks where we have these situations. And we had one certainly at the LaSalle Landings, and we were able to accommodate that. There will be other locations that we may come up depending on what that retrofit looks like in our existing parks. They may go to this area. They may have a different alternative. We tend to work with the donors and the memorial holders on what that looks like going forward.
Okay, the recommendation is that the report of the Manager of Roads and Parks dated March 3rd, 2026, PW-2026-12, regarding the Memorial Program Policy update be received, and that the current Memorial Program Policy be repealed, and that the newly established Memorial Program Policy be adopted as presented. Moved by Councillor Regis Bagnolo, support by Councillor Carrick. All in favor? That carries. The consent agenda has 4 items. Does anyone want to pull anything out to speak to? Or Councillor Segan, did you have your hand up? No? No, nothing anyone wants to pull out? So a motion to receive the 4 items. Councillor Carrick and Councillor Reno, all in favor? That carries. Committee matters, we have County Council highlights from the March 18th, 2026 meeting. Any questions or comments on those? And so the recommendation is that the County Council highlights dated March 18th, 2026 be received. Moved by Councillor Burns, support by Councillor Regis Bagnolo. All in favor? And that carries. Questions or statements by council members? No? I have one. Do we have an attachment for our snow trail removal machines? I don't know what they're called. That would remove goose poop. I received an abundance of phone calls regarding the trails, and I know that's not in our budget, so this may be something we want to look at for next year's budget, is maybe a program to clean our trails. I don't know, once every other week, once a month, I don't know what it would require. I know the city of Windsor is doing something like that, and they were telling me about this attachment that goes on the machines we currently have. And so I was wondering if we've looked into that, or if we've considered trying to clean up the trails, because it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better.
I'll try to answer that. So we have some attachments for the equipment. I'd have to check to see what the city of Windsor is using. I don't know if it's as simple as a broom, or if it's something that's picking it up. We could review that a little bit.
I do know it's picking it up, because then they bring it over to the Lou Romano for actual disposal of it. So there is a whole, that's why I said this may be a next year's budget item, but I am getting more and more complaints about the condition of some of our trails. And so I don't know how feasible it really is for us to clean them, or if maybe there's main ones we can clean, but maybe that's something we could look into for budgets.
Okay, that's certainly something we can look into. And so we would not have that piece of equipment now. It would be something we would have to purchase. It's time, people, all those costs and things like that. So certainly something we can look into.
I figured it would be, that's why I said budgets is the time, but maybe we could highlight that for now, just as something to look into and investigate how Windsor is doing with it. I know they're doing a relocation program as well. I don't know if we need to go to that extent in the town of LaSalle to actually start relocating. I've actually seen improvement at our town hall. I don't know, I know you guys are here every single day. I don't think anyone's been dive bombed recently. Everyone's walking out safely, hopefully. But I did notice we aren't putting the fencing over, so I think it's worked what we did in the past. But just something for us to think of going into next year's budget is, how do we clean our trails so that people aren't walking through it the way it is now? Councilor Reno?
Just in regards to the loop, I had one other question to administration. At what point can we expect to see some type of report with attendance, costs for electricity, things like that? At what point of the year should we be looking for that? Would we be looking for it in this meeting or in the Culture and Rec meeting? I feel it's been a great success this year, but I don't know what the power bill was, and people ask questions, but I just want to know when those numbers will become available.
Yep, thank you for the question. We are working on a report for that. I'm hoping for the end of May, roughly in that time range.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Segan?
Thank you, Your Worship. I read the news yesterday about the changes with Transit Windsor being taken under the envelope of the City of Windsor. I just wonder if it would be prudent to defer any decision-making on our pending policy with transportation of such until we have better information on where is this going to take us down the road as far as the financial costs and probably changes to practice. So it's just a suggestion.
Mr. Mara, do you want to comment at all?
Thank you. To the question, we understand and read the same information that the councilor had mentioned. And at this point, we have a contract with Transit Windsor. They have obligated to honor that contract. That expires in 2027 in August. With the transit master plan underway, we'll be back to council December into January with recommendations from the master plan, and then at that point we'll have to make a decision on what do we do with our transit service. But at this point, it's status quo with the current contract. We have not heard otherwise.
Thank you. I appreciate the answer because I really think that's something for the new council to deliberate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Notices of motion? No. We had no closed session today, so we go into our bylaws, and it's that the following bylaws be given a first, second, third reading and finally passed. 2026-022, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a transfer payment agreement between the Corporation of the Town of LaSalle and His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Emergency Preparedness and Response. 2026-023, being a bylaw to authorize the establishment of a joint election compliance audit committee. And 2026-024, being a bylaw to authorize the execution of a court security and prisoner transportation program agreement between the Corporation of the Town of LaSalle and His Majesty the King in right of Ontario as represented by the Solicitor General. Councillor Carrick, Councillor Breno. Carrick, all in favor? That carries. And our confirmatory bylaw of 2026-025 be given a first, second, third reading and finally passed. Moved by Councillor Segan, support by Councillor Reno. All in favor? That carries. List of meetings below. Thank you and have a good night.